Hello, I'm Stephen Collins speaking to you from Sarnia, Ontario. This video is about scales and how you can make scales really super easy on the violin. I'm not kidding, it's really not hard to play scales, and once you have your scale technique, a lot of other stuff falls into place. So the first thing you need to understand about playing scales on the violin is that you only have 4 fingers, and there are an extremely finite number of patterns. 4, because you have 4 fingers, so there's only 4 patterns. And here they are. Now, I'm going to go through this slowly to explain, if you were trained in the Suzuki method or some other method, you might call this finger pattern number 1, and this was number 2, and then they would go to number 3, and then Suzuki does some stuff, he calls this number 4, and then another one like this. There's have a whole bunch of different patterns. But I would invite you to say there's only 4 patterns because there's 4 fingers, and the order that they're presented in have not been correct. They've not properly understood. So let me help you with that. This is pattern 1. That's okay. This is pattern 2. And from there we go to this pattern. And we'll call that pattern 4 so that when we drop the 4th finger, that's pattern 3. So we haven't disturbed the traditional finger pattern order of 1, 2, 3. So what do those 3 have in common? Well, they have a what we call a tetrachord pattern. You've got a perfect fourth between the 1st and 4th fingers. So patterns 1, 2, and 3 are all consist of 2.5 steps. 2.5 steps with the half step in the middle, half step at the bottom, or half step at the top. And pattern 4 is all the 4 fingers far apart, equally spaced. Okay, but it's important that you think of them in this order, which you'll see at the end of the video is so cool. Pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 4, pattern 3. Now I outline this. I wrote a book about all of this stuff with a very wonderful technical exercise. It's called the warm-up. And it's available. If you're interested, leave me a note and we can talk about how you can get the book. And here's the chart that we're going to talk about later on too, with all of this stuff on there. You can see the finger patterns with the order. Now, let's talk about why that's important. If we go from pattern 1 to pattern 2 to pattern 4 to pattern 3, how does that differ? This 3rd finger never moves. Now, that's important because that's the finger that we want to keep in tune. If you play that 3rd finger, perfect 4th above the nut, it splits the note below, into the string below, into 2 pieces. And the string below that into 3 pieces, so that when you play that string, you get an extremely resonant sound. So if I take finger pattern 1 and I start on the 4th finger and I play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, there's finger pattern 1. Now I'm going to go down to the 3rd finger, the next finger down, and drop this finger. Now I'm going to drop this finger down and start on the 2. And then drop the 4th finger. And here we are. Now if you've been trained in a kind of a traditional thing, be careful you don't make the mistake to try to start on F sharp with the 2nd finger. Start on F. So the scales are A, G, F, and E flat. Now watch how this is really wonderful, because if you start in 1st position, you can use finger pattern 1. Then you can go to 2nd position on a 3rd finger and use finger pattern 2. Tune the A. 3rd position using the 2nd finger. And 4th position using this 1st finger. 1st position, 2nd position, 3rd position, 4th position. Isn't that wonderful? Now the other thing too is that if you start a scale on the 4th finger, the next octave is going to start with the next pattern. So if I start down here like this, we're not able to do this all the way across because we run out of notes, but you start here, the next pattern goes like this, like that. Now if I had a violoncello da spalla in my hand, I could just continue over the string and finish it up. Okay, but we know that if we start on a 3rd finger, we're going to have this pattern, and the next octave goes like this. As those of you who know C major, first finger drops, and the next note would be across the next string, or we extend. Okay? And then we get into the standard 2-octave fingering, where we start with finger pattern 4, which will change to finger pattern 3. And then finally, we can start with finger pattern 3 and go back to finger pattern 1. Isn't that cool? Okay, so the thing that allows you to do is to play, just slap your fingers down and play a scale. And all the different places you can do it, move around the fingerboard. And I'll just give you one other thought that you can take home for your scales. You can play the complete cycle of fifths using just this finger pattern by moving across the violin. Your violin's tuned in fifths. So if you start on C in 3rd position, your starting notes will be C, G, and D. Go to 1st position, A, E, and B. Go to 2nd position, F sharp and C sharp. Rename them G flat and D flat. Go to half position for A flat, E flat, B flat, and then to 2nd position for F and C. And then you can simply play each scale beginning on that finger with this one finger pattern. Next. First position. B major. Now sometimes what I do in my book is I play that same scale again on the G string, play it here, and then here, and then go to F sharp, then to D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and C. And I have had 6-year-olds that can do that. And it develops the ear, it develops confidence. You're no longer stuck in 1st position saying, oh, I can't play this key. You can play them all right away. 5 or 6-year-old can do that, and if they can do it, you can too. So watch for future videos where I will go through the arpeggio patterns. They're just as simple as the finger patterns for the scales. Okay, so watch for that, and if you like what you just saw here, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to ask questions. And if you'd like a free copy of my chart from my 80-some page book, send me a note. Thank you. See you again.